call on you and know who you are, if that's possible. All right, so let's see. I am now looking at the agenda. The first thing we will start out with is constituency update and task force reports. So for those of you who are new to the forum, we do have 10 constituency groups, and they are listed there. And then below that are the task forces. So I know we have updates. The ones highlighted, I know we have the updates, but we also, anyone from any of those groups is welcome. Or we'll start with the executive committee and have those folks report. So is Andy out there, our state GIO?
I am. Good morning, everyone. Andy Rowan, I'm the state GIO. Just a quick note, we are recording the meeting. So if you know people that are absent, they can always get it later. And if you're in witness security, then you should leave your camera turned off. So we at the Office of GIS are all still working remotely. I imagine many of you are as well. And people are asking whether we're getting any instruction about when we're going back, and we have not heard anything. So we're just going to keep on the way we have been. It's actually going pretty smoothly. Presumably we will eventually show up back in the office, but I don't know when that'll be. A couple of announcements from us. One regarding staffing. If you were looking carefully enough at the participant list in today's meeting, you may have noticed a familiar name that now has OIT after it. Steve Eckhart, who was most recently, well, for a long time, forever, at Civil Solutions. Many of you know Steve. Steve joined our staff just recently, and we are thrilled about that. And so he's going to be working with the rest of the data development team, and his first focus will be on parcel data, which is a familiar subject for him. So we're hoping that we can speed up our throughput on getting parcel updates out by having Steve on board. So welcome to Steve. The other thing that a lot of people are anxious to know about is the 2020 imagery. John Tyrowski did receive a shipment on hard drives from the contractor just a few days ago. We're going to grab a copy of that from him soon. And then we have a pretty good deal of processing that we have to do before we have it out for download, including moving that massive amount of data up to the Amazon cloud. So we have to run some format conversions on it and some other stuff. And given that that's all probably going to be done remotely, we aren't going to predict how long it'll take us, because sometimes the data transfer gets to be an issue. But you know, soon it'll be out, and the plan is to put it out the way all the other imagery is, where you can use a bulk download from the Amazon cloud, or you can download individual tiles or groups of tiles from the interactive map application that we have. So it'll be in that same interface. It'll just be an additional data set, and we'll have the same file formats that we've been supporting, including, for those of you using CAD and other things, a 3-band 8-bit Mr. SID generation 3. We did some testing, and that turns out to be the least common denominator in terms of compatibility with as broad a suite of software as we can do. So that'll be coming soon. And we've been working away. You may have seen on the COVID-19 site that the Department of Health runs. You may have seen a dashboard that, if you're looking at ArcGIS Online dashboards, will be familiar structure, because that's what it is. Has a number of maps in there, including most recently the map of vaccination coverage percentages by municipality, which was a fun little exercise where they gave us less than a week notice that they wanted to do that before they wanted it in production. So we had an exciting little scramble doing that, but we got it done, and it turns out, you know, exercises like that are a great demonstration of the power of software as a service and cloud computing. We were able to get that out using standard off-the-shelf stuff from ArcGIS Online, and of course, because it's in the cloud, we didn't have to worry about server capacity. That site takes a lot of traffic, so we were glad. John McCready especially was glad not to have that on our own server. So that's all gone reasonably smoothly, thanks to the technology. I mean, there's so many things that we've all been doing the last year that are hard to imagine how we could have ever pulled them off 5 years ago, and that's certainly one of them. I believe Brian Emily has a few other items, and Edith has something as well. Brian.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Brian Emily, Office of GIS. Just a quick little bit of reminders. I want to share my screen. So we're here at the forum. Just a reminder, if you haven't signed up as a member of the forum, please consider doing so. It's not required, but if you just go to the forum website, fill out the form, it'll email you for confirmation, and that adds you to our member database. It makes it easy for us to communicate with you and also keep track of your attendance at these meetings and as part of task forces. Because remember, that's critical if you want to run for executive committee in the future, or you want to vote for executive committee members. There's attendance requirements. So just a reminder on that. Also, another thing that's been here for quite some time, but folks might forget, is there is a jobs page here, and we put some effort into keeping this up to date as best we can. If you have a position that you would like to have listed here, we'd be happy to post it for you. You can see there's some new ones that are expiring soon. This one expires tomorrow, so if you're interested, get on that. And we try to have things that are in New Jersey or in the surrounding area that, you know, somebody in our community might be interested in. Just send us an email at this address if you have something that you would like to include. We can't actually host your job announcement like document, so get that hosted somewhere and just send us a link, and we're happy to link to it like we do with these. So that's the jobs page. As Andy mentioned, we do about imagery in the MG3 format. Since we met last time, we have all the 2015 imagery available in MG3 format. So for AutoCAD users, that is something that they really need. You can bulk download it. Some folks have done that. We've also added it to the imagery warehouse, right? So you can download one tile or tons and tons of tiles, but this allows you to actually select individual tiles. You know, you can see 2015 MG3 is now an option, right? So we'll be planning ahead with the 2020 imagery. As Andy said, it'll appear in these interfaces also. Another shameless plug, if you're looking for data, go to the Engine website. There's 560 items in here provided by folks around the entire community, including all the DEP data that they share is here as well, our stuff, other partners. Very easy to get stuff registered here. Just give me a shout or you know, email anyone at our office. If you host your own open data site, which more and more folks are doing, that's great. We would love to point to it. Very little work on your side. We just need a conversation and we can point to your stuff and include it here. That may help people find your authoritative content. So this catalog has been slowly growing, and we're happy to say we added lighthouses recently. So don't forget about that. If you've got data to share, we'd love to help you get the word out. Just give us a shout. And then the last thing I wanted to remind folks of, you may have heard there's a webinar from Macurissa coming up from our friends at Macurissa on the 9th. It's about public sector GIS and transportation. If you're interested in that, just go to that website. I have the agenda here somewhere. Here it is. It's kind of a half-day thing. So if you're interested in that, remember to go ahead and sign up there. It's, I believe it's a free event. So that's it for my announcements. I'm going to hand it back to Andy or Edith for their updates. Thanks.
I'll hold off until the task forces.
Okay, so Trish, back to you then.
Okay, so next up for constituency groups is the federal group. That's me. My update I will give, I guess, our featured presentation today. I'll be talking to you guys, and then, but I want to check with any of the other federal people out there. I don't know if Roger's there. He usually has something. Roger, anything? Census folks?
Good morning, and just wanted to mention that on May 4th and 5th, the National Geodetic Survey held their update on the reference frame change. The big item appears to be that things are delayed from 2022 implementation to something on the order of 2024. So that's good. They did go over a number of tools developed, and that's coming along really well. So this should be less painful than the 83 horizontal datum and the 88 vertical datum that we experienced, some of us, in our careers. And this is going to be the first reference frame that is entirely based on the GPS and its like systems in their constellations. So a very different type of approach in geodetic location.
Okay, thanks, Roger. If anyone else in the federal group has anything, I guess feel free to speak up now or put something in the chat if you want, like. And I do see there's some things in the chat, so hopefully Brian or someone can manage that for me.
Yeah, one thing real quick, Trish.
Yeah.
So somebody was asking about the 2020 imagery since we just kind of talked about it. Brenda was asking if we're going to have a cached map service like we do for the 2015s and the 2012s. And yeah, that is part of the plan. Of course, we have to generate that. That's going to take some time, but we do intend to have a cache service for that new imagery.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Yep.
All right, next up is education. I'm not sure if Dave Tulloch from Rutgers is on or has anything to report.
Nothing new to report.
Okay. Next is, we don't have a municipal rep at the moment. Executive committee is working on that, but if anyone knows anyone who, any municipal reps who would attend our meetings, and we're eager to meet with them and have them join us. Next up is county. I don't know if that we have a county report, but if anyone from any of the counties or our county rep who is, Joe Smalley. Is that Joe?
Hi, Trish. No, I don't have anything.
Okay.
But please, for anybody on the county constituency group, contact me prior to the meetings if you have anything I would like to talk about. You'd like me to talk about. And if anybody has something right now, feel free to speak up.
Okay, thanks, Joe. And so for those who don't know, Joe is with Middlesex County, and he's our county rep. Next is private. We've got, I don't know if Kaylin is on the line, but if you have anything, now's the time. But if not, that's fine too.
Yeah, I'm here. Nothing new to report from the private sector constituency group.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, next is the state, and I do believe that Anne Marie has something to report for us.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Yep.
Good morning. I'm Anne Marie Falkowski from the NJDEP Bureau of GIS. In April, we had the NJDEP GIS mapping contest. It was different this year. It was because it was virtual, but it was still successful. And the winning maps can be viewed on the Bureau of GIS website. And we also have a link to the map gallery where you can see all of the map entries. So you can go see that at nj.gov/DEP/GIS. Regarding our server migration and the new map service URLs that I've been mentioning the past few meetings, we've been experiencing some system architecture issues relating to firewall rules. And so we've been kind of very behind schedule. We've been meeting with OIT and we think the issues have been resolved. So hopefully more information will be coming very soon. My last announcement is that the Bureau of GIS has welcomed a new full-time employee, Juan Toro-Killian. Juan will be working with the GIS server and data teams, and he has a lot of experience and talent, so he'll be working on a variety of projects, including data development projects. So welcome, Juan. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. All right, next up is the regional and metropolitan planning organizations. I didn't hear from anyone about a report from them, but if anyone does have anything to say, now is your time. All right. Okay, next is nonprofits. I know that Mike Shanahan from the Nature Conservancy, he's not on. I think that's what he's doing. Anyway, he's not on, but he let me know that there'll be a report from the task force, and we'll get to that in a minute. And then the last group is surveyors. And I'm not sure if our surveying rep, Gary, I'm not sure if he's on, but if you have anything to add, you're welcome to say something now or not. Okay. All right. Next up are the task forces. Right now we have 3 task forces, and the first up is the geodetic task force. And Edith, you're up for that.
Okay, thank you, Trish. I'm going to try to share my screen. I thought I'd give a few more details about the material from the webinar that Roger mentioned. It was mostly aimed at the surveying community, a lot of detail about how they're doing things, but there are a few things that our more general audience would be interested in. Actually, my impression from it was they're not going to have expecting a real full release until 2025. The first reference epoch will be 2020, and you need to know this because the new datums are time dependent. So we'll always need that. I'm getting a really bad echo. Can somebody silence themselves? Thanks. There are a lot of updates on their website, so if you want more details, that's a great place to look on the NGS website. As Roger said, the work on the tools that are going to need to go along with the new datums is proceeding in parallel with the other parts of the work. So those should be ready by the time they're actually ready to release, which is great news. the current rate limiting step is completing the gravity project, which is a big deal and has a lot of logistical constraints, and that's why it's slowed things down. The National Geodetic Survey is holding sessions with vendors to keep them in the loop so that they can have their software ready by the time the modernized NSRS is ready. And, whoops, sorry. The design of the state plane coordinate systems will probably be released sooner than the modernized NSRS. So the designs will be released, but you won't be actually able to use them until the new datums are available. The deadline for state supply designs was at the end of March this year. That didn't involve New Jersey since we weren't submitting a state supply design. And finally, the deprecation of the U.S. survey foot by NGS is going on schedule for December 31st, 2022. After that date, the U.S. survey foot will be supported for legacy products only. So my editorial comment, repeating from the last time I was talking about this, is make sure any work that you're doing from here on out extremely clearly specifies which foot you're using. State it in words, someplace very prominent to go along with the data. And also along that vein, since the first reference epoch for the new reference system is going to be 2020, that means any data that you're collecting now, you really need to include time so that you'll have suitable information for connecting that back to the 2020 epoch with the new system. Make sure if you're either collecting data or writing a contract for a vendor to collect data for you, that you're requiring enough information along with that data. And that would be it for me.
Okay, thank you, Edith. I guess, I don't know, Roger, did you have anything else for the elevation task force?
Indeed, I do.
Okay, you're up.
Good morning, New Jersey. We have a couple of items percolating in the elevation group. The first is I have confirmed with the Corps of Engineers that they're going to fly their ocean-facing coastline next summer, 2022, with the SeisMIL instrument, the Coastal Zone Mapping and Integration LiDAR. So I've been in touch with the amazing John Tyrosky, as well as Andy and Doug Schleifer, to talk about the possibilities of this. And the other item, as Carly Simon would say, we're coming around again to quality level 2 coverage for the Northeast New Jersey area. That is Bergen, Essex, Hudson, Union, Middlesex, and Monmouth considerations, discussions ranging from what level we want to collect at. That will depend on funding, quality level 1, quality level 2. There's certainly interest in the higher level of coverage. So that is in its early stages, and potentially a broad agency announcement submittal may be forthcoming if funding is gathered and people are happy with the specifications put forth by the New Jersey submission. And that's what I have. Any questions?
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thanks, Roger. And last task force is our Trails Task Force, and I was told that Tanya Nolte has a report for us.
Hey, Trish.
Hi.
Thank you. I'm going to actually turn my camera off for this because I'm having some bandwidth issues, but I did want to say hello to everybody. Okay, so Good morning, everyone. I am Tanya Nolte, and I am the GIS manager at New Jersey Conservation Foundation and one of the co-chairs of the Trails Task Force. Brandy Chapman, who is the Trails coordinator at the DEP, is the other task force co-chair. It's been a little bit since we've last reported, so I wanted to give a quick update on what we've been up to over the last year or so, as well as the ongoing work of the task force. So Brandy, in her role at the DP, was able to secure federal funding to support the work of compiling a statewide trails data layer. So as a result of that, we were able to transition the work of the task force from planning. So we had discussed trail types to be captured, attributing, and had also developed a schema. So we were able to transition from that planning work straight into implementation, so compiling the data itself. So we began by reaching out to the GIS community last summer to request trail data, and thank you everyone who responded with data. And we also launched a request for quotes via the state GIS contract process, so that we could hire a firm to do the work of compiling the data we gathered. And that contract was awarded earlier this year to Civil Solutions, and the work is now underway with an end date of September this year. So once the data is compiled and finalized, it will be publicly released. So watch out for that later in the year. The task force is also developing a strategy for ongoing maintenance and updating of the data. At this stage, we foresee an annual or perhaps semi-annual updating schedule, most likely to be managed at the DEP together with help from the task force. So that's a brief overview of where we're at in terms of compiling data. I also want to mention that we recognize it's highly likely there's trail data out there, which we didn't capture during our initial outreach phase last year. And while the first iteration of the data set will include just that data that we've captured to date, we do want the data layer to be as inclusive as possible and for it to be as comprehensive and accurate and up to date as possible. So there'll definitely be room to include missing data sets and or additional new data during the maintenance and update phases, which will be an ongoing process after the first data release. So to wrap up, it's really gratifying to be at this point. And I'd like to take a minute to thank the many people, too many to name, both on the task force and otherwise, who've been instrumental in helping us get to this point. It's really, truly been a team effort and will continue to be a team effort moving forward. So thanks everyone for your good work and efforts. And if anyone has any questions or if you'd like to get involved, please reach out to me or to Brandy, which you can do via the forum website. So thank you. Back to you, Trish.
Thank you, Tanya. That's great. Good news there. All right, so that's our updates. The next thing on the agenda is the open discussion or any announcements that we have. So if you have an announcement, now is the time to do it. Anyone out there? Yeah, I know that Brian gave the announcement about the MAC URISA meeting coming up. But all right, hearing none, we will move on. But you're always welcome to put up something in the chat if you want.
Actually, Trish,
yeah.
I just realized I did get an announcement from somebody else, and I said I would mention it.
Okay.
There's a project going on at Princeton University called the Princeton Gerrymandering Project, and they've been doing a lot of interesting work with looking at patterns in voting and stuff. And they have launched a contest, a mapping contest that's open to the public. And there's a URL for it. I think I'll just I'll put that in the chat.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
it.
I heard about that. I think that was in the newspaper recently. I heard about it somewhere, but yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and I think that I mentioned this prior, but we've been working with the Division of Elections over at the Department of State. They have geo-enabled the voter registration system, and so now it's possible to get GIS data for all the voting districts and all the related geographies. We actually have that on our open data site now, so.
Oh, wow.
Pretty good stuff.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so next up is our our scheduled speaker and presentation. So actually this month we have 3 speakers, and I am one of them. And just so you know, the executive committee is kind of responsible for generating ideas for our topics for our meetings, and it was Doug Schleifer who said let's hear about soils data, and so I am gonna speak to you, and let me get started here with the opening slide here. All right, I think. Oh, let's see here. Can you see my screen, everybody? Let's see here.
Yep.
Okay. All right, great. So I'm Trish Long. I'm with USDA-NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Service, and today joining me will be Edwin Muñiz, state soil scientist with NRCS in New Jersey, and Doug Schleifer. We will be talking about a bunch of topics. We gave it this title: Understanding and Using USDA-NRCS Soils Data and Online Tools. So this is just an outline. I just divided it by, I'm going to go first, and then Edwin, and then Doug. I have 3 topics. I have about, I think, 35 slides, and then Edwin will go, and then Doug will go. We're not sure how long it will be. If necessary, we'll take a break in there. In my opinion, it's a pretty dense presentation, a lot of information. And that's why I'm actually glad we're recording this, because if you don't catch everything today, if you want, you're welcome to go back and listen to the recording. So I'm going to start, and this is something Doug suggested we do yesterday. Doug and I talked about it. There's some terms, you know, as a federal agency, we got a lot of acronyms, and SURGO is one of them. It's the Soil Survey Geographic Database. It includes digital soil maps and the accompanying soil properties and interpretations database. And it's the SURGO, the data exists at the county level for every county. Not every, well, I think most counties in the United States have a SURGO, have a soil survey. A web soil survey is the next term I just wanted to put out there. I'm going to be talking, showing you this and talking to you about it. It's a web application that provides access to SURGO for the general public. Then the soil data viewer, I'm going to be talking about this. It's basically an Arcmap extension. I'll show you that and what it can do. And each of these things have a slightly different function, and some came first and some came later. Geospatial data gateway, Doug is going to explain that a little bit, but it's basically where you can download our data. And soil data access, that's what Edwin's going to talk about. It's a suite of web services and applications allowing you to request and deliver soil survey spatial and tabular data beyond what can be done with web soil survey and the geospatial data gateway. So it's an exciting addition to our services. So I'm actually going back a little bit, actually kind of far in history, just to show, just for those who are not familiar with what the soil survey is. It's a detailed report on the soils of an area, includes maps and with soil boundaries and photos and descriptions and tables of soil properties and features used by farmers, land use planners, and engineers, among others. In our state office in Somerset, we have a copy of all of the hard copy printed soil surveys for the state. And here's Middlesex County, New Jersey. They're on the shelf. We don't use them. We don't, refer to them that much, but they're a really cool historical document published by NRCS with partners. And this particular soil survey was from 1978 for Middlesex County. This I'm just gonna run through. This is just one slide telling you what you can find inside that soil survey document. And in this case, you've got these soil polygons and the soil's symbols, map unit symbols. And these days, this is an old soil survey symbol. It's only 2 letters. Now it's 3 letters minimum. So that's, and now I actually went, I feel like I skipped a slide, but maybe not. Okay, so this is a shot of the one of the tables that's found in the report in the printed soil survey. So for example, if you are doing construction and are looking for road fill or gravel or topsoil or something like that, you would go to this table, construction materials, and this is one of many tables in that soil survey. This one tells you that this at-scion soil would be a poor choice for road fill and gravel. It's too sandy. So it gives you a sense of what soil types would be suitable for what uses. And it's filled, again, there's lots of tables and lots of information in the soil survey. And then inside the front cover is the instructions on how to use it. It's kind of fun to look at these days. This is when you open up the soil survey at the back, there's a bunch of maps, and they have a county map. This one is called the general soil map, and it's just to give you a general idea, but as you can see, it's a fold out map, and corners get creased, and it's not an easy. It doesn't always keep well in this format. So you're going from a 8.5 by 11, and you're folding it out by 11 by 17 type format. Just wanted to show you that's how they did it. And then what's more interesting to me is the aerial imagery they used to draw the original polygons onto. Now these are unrectified aerial photographs, not ortho imagery. And I was not able to determine the date of this imagery, but the survey was done in 1978. So I don't know what year that imagery was taken, but sometime before that. And so, yeah, this is what folks used to use for looking at soils. And then this is just a description of how to use that soil survey. Just a few steps the old way. And then this here, I'm showing you, I've got that screenshot from the maps, the zoomed in area. But the important thing here is the map unit. So each polygon, the small letters or numbers designate a map unit, and it is the key defining information about your soils. And then you would go to the index of map units and get all the information you want about your soil, whatever area you're looking at. So that's the historical let's see, background for what the soil survey is and how it works. I am now going to show you our more modern soil survey, the web soil survey, which actually was introduced in 2005, and it's getting it's on the older side now, but it is something that is used by lots of people across the country, and it's basically a web application that provides access to SURGO, the soils database, for the general public. Not generally GIS users, but I do want to show it to you for those who are interested, again, anyone can use this. It is actually the single authoritative source of soil survey information, and it's accessing the SURGO data. And it provides soil descriptions, interpretations, and maps, and for lots of different people and uses. So here, this is just a screenshot and a description of how you would actually follow the same sequence as you did with the printed book. Find your area of interest, note the map unit or symbol, and go to the text or tables. And I'm not doing a live demo. I just want to show you how this works. And here is the first screenshot I took. I just entered an address. And I will say that is something you could not do with the printed soil survey. You couldn't zoom in on an address like you can with this. So that gets you to your area of interest, and you would then, check some boxes and things, and it would zoom to it actually creates an area of interest. If you want to upload your own area of interest, you can do that. But in this case, I just typed the address. I think it generated this rectangle, and then it shows you where you're getting your soils data from. And in this case, the tabular data is from June 2020, and the spatial data is from September 2019. So just the soils data itself does not change much over the years. However, there are, I'll say there are updates when folks are out in the field and they're noticing things that don't match what the maps say. They go through a process of updating the maps and the data, the tabular data. So in this case, we have the tabular data and the spatial data from two different time periods, but they're the most recent ones. And our staff is required to know, our planners who use the soils data, they need to know which version they're using. And next up is, so now it told me what soils vintage I was using, and now it's telling me what the soil type is on that property. And in this case, it's Fort Mott loamy sand, 0 to 5% slopes. It covers 100% of the area of interest that I had that was outlined there, and it's 3.5 acres. And one other thing I want to point out is that the map unit symbol, it's FOD, and the B, so it's 3 letters, and the B, the last letter refers to the slope. So whenever you see a map unit symbol, that last letter could be A through D or E, I think. But that slope is really just a relative slope, and in this case, it's 0 to 5% slopes. And this data was originally created back years and years ago. They did not have LiDAR, so this is not in any way, a estimation of actual slope, but it gives you an idea of what the slope is out there. And increasingly, soil scientists are using LiDAR for slope determinations and lots of stuff for soil survey applications. All right, so I think, I didn't actually go any further. You can click on these other tabs and download the soils data here and explore and do some other things with it. But I didn't want to spend a lot of time on web soil survey because it's really not a GIS user's application. It's really for the general public. And because when Google Earth Pro came out, lots of people were using that, and they wanted, so the folks that developed Web Soil Survey developed a tool that allows people to use Google Earth Pro and a converter to create shapefiles for importing into Web Soil Survey. So they are trying to keep up with the times with Web Soil Survey. All right, next topic is the soil data viewer. Now this is So as I said, Web Soil Survey is an all-purpose website for the general public. Soil Data Viewer is for more advanced users. In a way, it's well, we'll talk about it. So it's actually an extension to Arcmap that allows the user to create soil-based thematic maps. It can be run independent of Arcmap, but in that case, you only have the tabular report. You won't have the map to go with it. So in my experience, most people want the map to go with the tabular report. It is, again, it says there, it's Arcmap. It's an extension. They have not, we're all moving to ArcGIS Pro now. It's not, they haven't ported it over yet. And actually, I am not sure that they will be. But as long as Arcmap is around, Soil Data Viewer will work. And it is something you can download from USDA's website. Instructions are there. What I want to say is that for those who are not, very familiar with the soil survey, all those tables that I mentioned, they can get complicated. The reason Soil Data exists, Soil Data Viewer exists, is because it makes it easier. The user doesn't have to query, and in this case, it's in many cases, NRCS staff people who are not all GIS specialists. They are using Arcmap, and they know how to, get that, open it up. But then when it gets to using the data, they don't want to have to query the database, process the data, and link to the spatial map. So Soil Data Viewer does that for you, and I'll show you what that looks like. And it contains processing rules to enforce appropriate use of the data, and it's quick and easy. So now I'm just going to show you a few slides on that. So the first thing you need for Soil Data Viewer to work is a county-wide soils layer. And this can be downloaded from Web Soil Survey or other sources. But here I have Middlesex County soils polygon layer. It's a shapefile. And then here's the table that goes with that polygon layer. And it may not even have, this is the map unit name, the map unit key, the map unit symbol. It may not have the name. What you download from the website might not include the name, but in any case, this key and the symbol are critical for linking between tables. So this is a minimum. This is what you get when you download the shapefile, and you get the DBF that goes with it. So now here I'm showing you Arcmap, just the plain old Arcmap screen, but you will notice, well, it's kind of tiny there, but there is the, it's a little flower pot button that after you install Soil Data Viewer, you'll get this button, the soil, which starts what they call the Soils Thematic Map Tool or Soil Data Viewer. And it says here to use in conjunction with soils data to draw thematic maps. So here again, I've got Middlesex County soil shapefile up. And if you don't have the soils layer up, it's going to tell you that you need to bring up a soils layer first. And you could do any soils in the country, any county soils layer in the country, and as long as you also have, let's see. So in this case, I generated this error because I didn't have a soil map layer loaded into Arcmap, but once you have that layer added, it brings up. This is what happens when you press that little flower pot icon, so you see. Actually, I'm going to focus down here on the bottom. Let's see here. This little red box is letting you know that there's something wrong. It says no map units in sync. And what's going on here is you have a map layer, and in this case, it's Middlesex County. But the database here, so there's a separate MDB that contains all of the data associated with the soils, and it's beyond what's on the DBF. It's an MDB, it's separate. And in this case, it's the Atlantic County one. NJOO1 is Atlantic County. So they're not matching, they're not in sync. So what you need to do is this is something that I see quite frequently. People don't realize that they need to make those the map layer and the database match. So once you select, you point to the same map layer and the same database, you'll get a green arrow there saying, okay, you're ready to go. And then you can proceed. Tell soil data viewer what you want to look at, and the attribute folders are all listed here. There is quite a few of them, and each one, I just opened up the sanitary facilities folder so you could see, and there's actually an interpretation, soils interpretation for sewage disposal just for New Jersey, and there's this other one for Vermont. So individual states can develop their own interpretations. And I mean, there's a lot more I could say about that, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like. And there's a description here. This interpretation is supposed to help for site selection for the safe disposal of sewage and solid waste. So this is how you would get to, if you're looking to site a septic tank or something like that, then this information could be used to help you out. I scrolled down to this soil qualities and features folder because the hydrologic soil group is something that I know a lot of engineers use, and this is a description of it. And it's basically the soils are assigned to 4 hydrologic soil groups, A, B, C, and D. And it's used by, like I said, engineers to kind of give you a sense of the rate of water infiltration. So it's used for generating soils curve numbers, which some of you may be very familiar with, or it may be new to some of you as well. Okay, just a few more slides here. So this is what happens after I got my, let's see, the map layer set and the database set, and then I hit map, the map button, and instantly I get a map of Middlesex County symbolized by the hydrologic soil group. And those of you who are familiar with this, this may not be anything too interesting, but for those who are not, you can see kind of some patterns here of hydrologic soil group for Middlesex County, how the soils are affecting different areas of the county. All right, that is the end of my presentation. I have one more slide. I just want to throw this up there again. So because the next 2 speakers are going to talk about some of these things, and I just wanted to run through these again. SURGO is a soil survey geographic database. It's basically the soil survey information, the database and the maps, made available digitally. Oh, excuse me. Then the next thing is a web soil survey that I showed you. It's just a web application providing access to SURGO for the general public. Soil data viewer is going back to desktop Arcmap, and it will probably, like I said, it will be around as long as Arcmap is around. And it allows GIS users to create soil-based thematic maps. And then, and then the next one is Geospatial Data Gateway. Doug's going to talk a little bit about that. It's one place you can download our not just soils data, but other data sets from USDA and elsewhere. And then soil data access is what Edwin will talk about next. And that is a suite of web services and applications which allow the request and delivery of soil survey, spatial and tabular data beyond what you can do with anything above. So it's the latest and the greatest, and it's pretty exciting, the stuff that we can now do with our soils data. So yeah, that is what I've got. If anyone has any questions, you can contact me. There's my information. And I think I'm just gonna stop sharing now. See if I do that right. Yeah, so that is what I've got to show you about kind of going back to the historical soil survey and where things have gone over the years. And now I'm gonna it's Edwin on? I'm gonna let him do his thing. Do we see him?
Yes, Trish, I'm here. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right, Edwin, you're up.
Morning, everybody. Like Trish mentioned, my name is Edwin Muñiz. I'm the state soil scientist for NRCS in New Jersey. So I'm gonna start sharing my presentation, and I have a bunch of links on the presentation that I'll be happy to share with you through Trish, so you can get all the tools that way. Okay, I hope that you guys can see my presentation. If not, let me know.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about different tools and all the data that we have available to the public, and some of the interpretations that they're built and they're being used widely for different uses. So the first thing, I'm not going to spend too much on this. Trish mentioned very well what SORGO is, which is a soil survey geographic database. This is a map of what the data is available. You can see we have information for most of the nation. There is some areas that are still under work, but data is still available by the use or the combination of what we call SORGO data and STATSCO data. STATSCO data is a different data set that is can call it a larger scale, which is basically looks like the map that Trish showed is more like a general map for the nation. So a combination of the SORGO and the STATSCO is used for some areas. So people that need the data can still have something to work in the meantime. So SORGO is a combination of they have everything like in the paper copies that we used to have, the maps, the tabular data, and the interpretations all behind. So one of the things with the SORGO data or any of the soils data is soils are complicated systems, and that is reflected in the data. So we have different relationships. We have one-to-one relationships, one-to-many, and many-to-many. And you can see here in this scheme, we have one polygon. One polygon has one map unit. One map unit has many components, and one component has many horizons, and one horizon has many properties. So this is complicated. It's not because we want to make it like that. It's just the nature of it. So the one-to-one relationship is something straightforward. We have one polygon or one delineation, one map unit. So that's where you do your joins. And that's one of the things that you can see. And then I will be mentioning this down also during the presentation. The most important things, even that, Trish mentioned it, the symbols and the MU key. What I hardly recommend and strongly recommend is always using MU keys to do any of the joins. This is just to avoid any. So the one-to-one, like I said before, that's the ones that you do the joins. And you can see in this part here, we have one polygon, one interpretation value. So that's a good way to do a join when you have a one-to-one. In this case, we did a join using the MU-SIM, but again, I strongly recommend using MU keys to do your joins. Now we have the one-to-many. So one-to-many, you have one polygon in here, you have one map unit, but that map unit has many components. And in this case, we have 6 components within the map unit. And there are, we separate them within major components and minor components. And there is the composition of the soil when we collected the data in the field. And we create those models based on landscape positions, topography, elevations, geology, and so on. So in here, why we don't use joins to do a one-to-many? That could be a case, as we can see in here, that we have two map units symbols with two different interpretation values. And that could be for different reasons. It could be because there is an error in the query. When the user query the data, if they do some query manually, that's something that I strongly recommend using some of our tools just to avoid those kind of errors. But the thing is, if you do a one-to-many, try to do a one-to-many join, you can run in this kind of thing, and the computer doesn't really know which one goes to which one. So it would pick either the first one or the second one. So you might end up getting the wrong data. So again, one-to-many is not a good thing for joins. That's where you use relates. So the rules for relates. So that's the thing is that you have to do, you do your join first, and then you can do your relates. And the reason is because when you create any joins, if you do your relates and then do the joins will cancel your relates and they will remove them. So then you will have to do it again. So the rules are create your joins and then create your relates. And then you can do as many relates as you want. There is no limit. Here's an example of how the Sorgo data looks and how the relates look. All these tables here that you can see with the Z in the front, those are relates. So we have relates, the component horizon with the component horizon AASHTO classification. And you can see that there is many, because our database, it has a lot of information. So we want to display it to the customer. So then you have all the components with the component surface fragments and restrictions, and then so on. There is many relationships here. When you use your I button, your identify button, you can also see those relates and this way. You can see that you have your map unit, your polygon with your map unit. You have one map unit, and you have 4 components in here. And you can keep drilling down, and then the component will show all the horizons, and then you can keep drilling down. The horizons will show all the properties if you make those relates. So let's talk now about the tools on how to pull all that information, because trying to do that by hand, there is so much room for errors. So our division, the Soil Science and Plants division, created these tools to be used in Arcmap. They're working right now on developing these tools also for ArcGIS Pro. So these tools are available by using these links. The good thing about this is that you don't have to download any data. This tool mine all the information straight from our staging server, well, not the staging server, but our warehouse, data warehouse. So you don't have to download any data. And you can see the amount of tools that are here. You can download the Sorgo data by area symbol, by map, by soil survey name. We have many checks, also quality checks, just to make sure that the data that you downloaded is correct and there is no errors. And also these additional other tools to create soil map series, identify dominant components, and so on. All this suite of tools can be downloaded from this link here. And also there is a link for the user guide. So it will explain how each one of the tools are used and what they do. And also and some additional data that you might have to download to locate your area. That in the case that it would be New Jersey, you can download by county and then use the tools and create a statewide data set. Another new tool that it was added, and it is being added recently, is this table. This table doesn't come with the Sorgo download. this table is created by the use of this tool that I mentioned before, and it will be this created GSORGO value table. So what this table does is to compile all the information that for soil organic carbon, available water storage, national commodity crop productivity index, root zone, depth of a commodity crop, and so on. This table, what it does is create this table, and then also you can add it to the GeoSorgo, so you can link that to the one-to-one relationship or join to the spatial data. And then there is also a link here that provides some more information for this table. The good thing about this table is that if you're looking for any of this, there is some, for example, soil organic carbon, if you're doing like a 0 to 200 centimeters, you have to do a lot of calculations. You need to mine the information for the organic matter, the bulk density, the coarse fragments, and then calculate the soil organic carbon. And then you have to do it also in a weight average by horizon thickness. So it's a long process. So our GIS people, they created these scripts and these tables, so the user will have it available. I think that's all we're going to say about that. There is for the 200, and they also included the 0 to 50 centimeters and 0 to 100 centimeters, if I remember correctly. So there is another tool. This is called Sorgo on Demand. So basically, it is like a soil data viewer, and the reason that was created is because since there were some talk about keep providing updates for the soil data viewer, and the soil data viewer will go eventually. So they want to create a GIS tool that we can use in Arcmap, and this is also in the work for ArcGIS Pro. So basically, it's a bunch of different collection of scripts in Python that you can generate interpretation by county or statewide, and also using different properties. And the properties, you can mine the data by thickness or by horizons, and there is a lot of features there that they're building. And also they have a section for Express, and the Express will be just for your area of interest. So if you had a small area of interest that is not the county, or is smaller than a county, then you can delineate your area of interest and then mine the data that way. And again, there is a link here, so you can go and download your Sorgo on Demand tool. Soil Data Access. Soil Data Access is a platform that we use to mine spatial and tabular data using SQL language. This is more like for maybe power users and GIS. The good thing about this is that all the data is mined from our warehouse also, is live data. So you don't have to worry about downloading updates every year. It pulls the data that way. You can integrate this SQL language scripts into the Python also in GIS. So you can build your tools and then mine the data directly from our warehouse within the tools that you're building. I'm including here a link for the Soil Data Access, and also there is a library of examples that you can use and modify to pull the information that you want. So I'm gonna show you an example of how the script looks in SQL. So you can see there is And that's why I would recommend using the library as for examples, because there is a combination of tables that you will have to join in order to get the data mined in the correct way. But the good thing is when you finish doing this part here, you can change this very easy or modify this very easy. For example, this query is looking at the New Jersey disposal field for septic tank absorption fields is following New Jersey rules. You do it for the whole state, or if you want to change for a county, let's say Atlantic County, you change this ampersand here or for 001, and then you run the query, and it will pull all the information for you. In this case, it's only pulling or generating a tabular script data set, if you will, but you can combine spatial and tabular also. I'm gonna do a quick demo. Let's see if what I'm gonna do is just stop this and then open the soil data access. Can somebody tell me that if you can see the screen?
We can see it now, Edwin.
Okay, good. So what I did is I just copy and pasted a sample of the script in here. You can see this is the site for the soil data access. There is some basic information. There is some links also for the helps and all the kind of thing. So I just copy and paste it in here. So I'm going to run this to do give me all the information right now, or I can put it in a queue and enter my email, and then they will send me a text message. But for now, let's do it a quick query. You can change also your delimiters for fields and text. So you can see now we're doing the whole state of New Jersey, and you can see how fast this is done. We already have the data, tabular data for the whole state of New Jersey. For the disposal field, we have our ratings, we have our rating classes. If that's something that you want to create interpretation maps with colors, you use your rating classes and build your legend. You were looking at just the major components, and you have the component percentage, and we have the MU key. This is the part that is just, I just gonna keep repeating it. This is the most important, and then I always say that use this MU key to do your joins. So you see that how fast that's done for the whole state. And then, like I mentioned before, if you want to, let's say you want only Atlantic County, you can go like this, rerun your query, and then you have only for Atlantic County. And you can see that, how fast this works. It's just a couple of seconds. And as I mentioned before, you can build all these queries and in your Python scripts. So let me minimize this. Let's go back to my presentation. Let me know if the presentation is up.
Yeah, it's at the demo slide.
Okay, good. Now I'm going to finish talking about the National Commodity Crop Productivity Index. This is an interpretation that was built a few years ago. We are in the third version of it. There is many applications for this interpretation. Interpretation use natural relationship with soil, landscape, climate factors, and that is responding to different crops. We have it for some major crops like corn, soybeans, cotton, and also we have for some minor crops like vegetables or some grains also. The rating, just took the rating and put it in the map just to show how they look in the map. Where the higher the number, the better the soil is for the productivity. And you can see it correlates very well. We have the highlands, the soils are shallow. So we expect a little bit lower productivity. It doesn't mean that the soils are bad or the soils are not good for production. The soil is still good, but there is some limitations that need to be overcome. We can see the Piedmont area and the all glaciated area that they have a good productivity, the same as the intercoastal plain. And then we have a lower with the pinelands, and we know that the pinelands, the soils are acidic, and there is a limited amount of crops that we might have to use in there. Or, well, I don't want to say limited amount of crops, but there is some other limitation that we have to overcome for them. So this is an overall rating. So it's based more into corn and soybeans. But it shows a good relation, something that is, that we'll be expecting our. Some of the potential application for this is farmland assessment. It can be used for a lot for if you remember the LISA on the land evaluation part, for farm preservation, soil productivity, development planning tools, zoning policies, land conversion, and so on. There is a lot of potential application on this layer. In addition of any kind of interpretation that you can build or use that they're already built in our database. This is my contact information. I can be reached by either email or phone number. I'll be happy to answer any questions on how to use some of the tools.
Okay, thanks, Edwin, that was good. And now I don't know if Doug is up and ready to go. We have plenty of time. And I know Doug's got a lot he wants to show us.
Right, I'm ready to go.
Okay, cool.
All right, let me share my screen here. All right, can you see that?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Doug Schleifer, manager of the Office of GIS at the New Jersey Office of Information Technology. I'll be presenting several examples of how the SURGO database has been used for mapping and analysis, 5 by various groups at DEP, and a few of my own from my previous work at the Upper Raritan Watershed Association. It's now known as the Raritan Headwaters Association. I will also show how to access the instructions from Engine and our open data site for downloading the SURGO database from the NRCS Geospatial Data Gateway. All right. So the first example comes from Heather Korsky, a GIS specialist at the DEP Assistant Commissioner's Office for Natural and Historic Resources. Every 4 years, their Office of Leases and Concessions holds an auction of farm fields within state parks, forests, and wildlife management areas to lease to farmers. The Office of Leases and Concessions delineates the farm fields to be auctioned using the most current orthoimagery and land use land cover data, and storms the farm field polygons in a geodatabase, with relevant attributes such as lease ID, farm field ID, etc. SURGO soils data are then combined with the delineated farm fields, resulting in a data set of soil polygons within the farm field boundaries. Acreage totals are then calculated from the soil polygons for each soil type present in the farm fields. Database fields are then added to the output table for rental values. The USDA Farm Service Agency supplies DEP with soil rental rates each year, represented in the column in the middle on the on-screen chart. And these values are added to the rental value database field. Total rental values are then calculated by multiplying total acreage by rental value for each soil type in each farm field. Maps are made of the farm fields in each lease area, and the totals are also included in the lease documents. I enlarge the database table at the bottom of the map to better visualize the values that go into the calculations. To calculate soil rental rates, the USDA Farm Service Agency Conservation Reserve Program uses their Soil Productivity Index along with the NRCS National Commodity Crop productivity index that Edwin talked about, to normalize the rental rate by soil within each county. All criteria used in the NCCPI affect crop culture and production and are referred to as factors affecting inherent productivity. When determining an individual soil rental rate, NRCS soil scientists multiply the county average rate by the soil's relative productivity.
Hey, Doug,
Yeah.
we lost your,
Oh, look at that.
yeah. I see.
All right. So let me unshare and share again. All
There we
right.
are. Yep.
Okay, good. I'm not sure how that happened. Okay. So next, the next set of uses is from David Dumont, environmental scientist for DEP Climate Resilience Planning. The first is the Coastal Vulnerability Index, or CVI. It was developed as one of a suite of planning tools to provide coastal communities with easily accessible information to inform local and regional planning, hazard mitigation, and emergency management efforts. The CVI is a series of maps representing an analysis to assist in classifying a range of hazard-prone areas, including those susceptible to coastal flooding and impacts to the underlying land. The CVI presented here is a composite model of geospatial vulnerability indicators, including storm surge inundation, mean high water surfaces, flood-prone areas, geomorphology, slopes, erosion, and drainage and soil drainage that classify a range of hazard-prone areas susceptible to chronic and episodic hazards. CVI is a planning tool only and does not impact regulatory decisions, nor is CVI appropriate for site-specific design decisions. Surgo soils were classified and ranked for use in 3 CVI index layers: drainage, slope, and erosion. Here's a blow-up of how those layers were classified and used. Next, the Marsh Mitigation Index Map, or MMI, was developed as a predictive spatial tool to provide coastal communities with easily accessible information for local and regional planning. The MMI is a series of maps representing an analysis to assist in showing where coastal marshes will retreat in response to rising sea levels. The MMI presented here is a composite model of geospatial indicators, including mean high water surfaces, coastal wetland buffers, land use land cover types, slopes, soil drainage, and digital elevation models that classify a range of conditions that would be compatible or not compatible for marsh reestablishment inland of increasing surface water heights. Like the Coastal Vulnerability Index, the MMI is a planning tool only. Surgo soils were classified and ranked for use in 1 MMI index layer for drainage. And here's a blow-up of how that layer was classified and used. The next use is from Larry Tarek, manager of the DEP Bureau of Watershed Management, Division of Watershed Management and Restoration, for soil mapping for threatened and endangered species habitat analysis. This slide shows the pine snake habitat model, a habitat evaluation model to assist in evaluating project impacts to snake habitat and to provide an avenue to develop appropriate mitigation actions to offset habitat losses. One variable considered in the model is the soil types present at impact sites and proposed mitigation sites. Pine snakes are in particular are fossorial. They burrow or live underground and require loose, sandy soils for testing. Next is the long-tail salamander example at an undocumented pond that features appropriate habitat characteristics and soil type, which is Farmington Rock Outcrop Complex, 0 to 15% slope, Based on these criteria, surveys were conducted around the base of the rock outcrop adjacent to the pond. The target species was found on the second survey effort. In this case, the soil mapping was used to identify a potential suitable habitat, resulting in the discovery of a previously unidentified population. The next examples are from Mark French, GIS specialist at the New Jersey Geological and Water Survey. The first example is for the survey's groundwater recharge and aquifer recharge projects. These methodologies require SURGO, soil map unit, and hydrologic soil group data, in addition to other factors, to ascertain recharge curve numbers seen on this map. A similar soil moisture budget runoff project in conjunction with the survey's water supply planning section is in the early stages and will at least initially utilize the same soils data as well as available water capacity to determine root zone water capacity. SURGO soils are also used by the survey in water allocation permit reviews as input into their skim flow irrigation modeling program, which requires aggregate curve numbers and root zone water capacity calculated using available water capacity. In order to determine these soil properties, two tools are used. The first is the NRCS Soil Data Viewer. This includes GIS mapping tools and the SURGO database. These work in conjunction to create maps representing any one of the dozens of soil properties and derivative information included in the database. The second tool is the NRCS Web Soil Survey, which is basically the online version of the Soil Data Viewer. The last example of SURGO use that I'll show from DEP is from Ariana Tesiatalos. Sorry about that, Ariana. She's a freshwater ecologist at the DEP Division of Land Resource Protection. Much of the work of this division involves assessing the presence of freshwater wetlands on land subject to a proposed permit or wetland delineation application. The web soil survey showing soils from the SURGO database is used in desktop site reviews prior to conducting field investigations. For instance, hydric soils represent one of the three parameters used to define a wetland in accordance to the 1989 Federal Manual that defines hydric soils as soils that are saturated, flooded, or ponded long enough during the growing season to develop anaerobic conditions in the substrate. Therefore, the presence of soil units interpreted as hydric would indicate a potential occurrence of wetlands. Other associated details used in the assessment from the SURGO database include landform position, parent material, drainage class, runoff class, depth to water table, available water capacity, frequency of flooding, and frequency of ponding. This map shows the area of interest. This shows the use of the web soil survey to map soils on the Circle Drive development property. In the left frame is a closer view of the soils with orthoimagery in the background. In the right frame show DEP wetlands as interpreted from orthoimagery. In the left frame of this slide is a list of the drainage class ratings for the soil types present on the property from the web soil survey. To identify possible additional wetlands, areas on the property with soils with drainage class ratings of poorly drained and soils with slow infiltration in hydrologic soil groups C and D, as explained in the document in the right frame, were field inspected. Additional information provided by the web soil survey about each soil type was also used to help identify wetland areas and to inform the field inspection. The site map on the left shows wetland areas and the additional areas identified as wetlands during the field inspection, with the dashed orange lines for the northern parts of the property here and the southern parts of the property here. And then this map shows the final wetland delineation based upon all of that work. All right. Thanks to everyone from DEP who submitted presentations. Very much appreciated. Now on to some projects that I did many years ago in my capacity as GIS director for the Upper Raritan Watershed Association. The first one I'm going to show is PPAC Gladstone Borough Environmental Resources Inventory, done in June of 2004. The goal of the Environmental Resources Inventory, or ERI, is typically for use as an aid to identify critical resources that should be considered in municipal decision-making, planning, and management. The information provided should be used in conjunction with the municipal master plan that provides the investigative framework for future development, redevelopment, and the conservation of natural resources. Soils are a critical element of an ERI because they occupy the boundary between the living organisms and non-living materials of the earth. They are intimately related to both surface water and groundwater and to plant and animal communities. Due to this importance, considerable attention should be given to this element in any planning process. Important insights can be gained about vegetative communities, wildlife habitat, agricultural capability, and development suitability. The Surgo database contains a wealth of information about soil characteristics that are valuable to farmers, planners, ecologists, engineers, and many others. For the PPAC Gladstone ERI, there was a focus on soil ratings that provide the degree of constraint for development factors, roads and streets, dwellings with basements, septic tank absorption fields, and drainage. The ratings can be slight, moderate, or severe. A rating of slight means soil properties are generally favorable for the rated use, that limitations are minor and easily overcome. A rating of moderate means that some soil properties are unfavorable, but can be overcome by careful planning, design, and management. A rating of severe means soil properties are so unfavorable and difficult to overcome as to require soil reclamation, special design, or intensive maintenance. Soil ratings for roads and streets are based on the assumption that roads and streets will be paved. For soils found in PPAC Gladstone, the limitations are depth to bedrock, flooding, frost action, large stones, low strength, ponding, shrink swell, slope, and wetness. Soil ratings for dwellings with basements are based on the properties of undisturbed soils. These ratings are for dwellings of 3 stories or less. The limitations are depth to bedrock, flooding, large stones, ponding, shrink swell, slope, and wetness. Soil ratings for septic tank absorption fields are derived from requirements from the New Jersey Department of Health based on the Realty Improvement and Sewerage Facilities Act, Chapter 199. Soil ratings for septic tank absorption fields are considered applicable for residences on normal lot sizes, but not for public buildings or trailer parks. Limitations are depth to bedrock, flooding, perks slowly, ponding, poor filter, slope, and wetness. Soil ratings for drainage are affected by such soil properties as permeability, texture, and structure, depth to clay pan, rock or other layers that influence the rate of water movement, depth to seasonally high water table, slope stability in ditch banks, susceptibility to stream overflow, salinity or alkalinity, and availability of drainage outlets. The limitations are cut banks cave, depth to bedrock, depth to water table, flooding, frost action, perk slowly, ponding, and slope. I also completed ERIs for Bernardsville Borough and Wayne Township, which I will touch on briefly. The Bernardsville Borough ERI included all the soil ratings for Peapack Gladstone plus 2 additional soil ratings for pond reservoir areas and for paths and trails. Soil ratings for pond reservoir areas are affected by the ability of soils to hold water behind a dam or embankment. Suitable soils have low seepage, which is related to their permeability and the depth to fractured or permeable bedrock or other permeable material. For soils found in Bernardsville Borough, the limitations are seepage, slope, and depth to bedrock. Soil ratings for paths and trails are based on the limitations of soils for local and cross-country travel by foot or horseback. Design and layout should require little to no cutting and filling. The best soils are at least moderately well drained, firm when wet but not dusty when dry, are flooded not more than once during the season of use, having slopes of less than 15% with few or no rocks on the surface. The limitations are erodes easily, large stones, slope, small stones, wetness, and ponding. And for the Wayne Township ERI, that included the following factors: depth to bedrock, depth to seasonally high water table, and hydric soils. They were more interested in soil characteristics than soil ratings. Another project I worked on was development of riparian areas data for the Raritan Basin. This project was undertaken to assess the health of riparian areas within the Raritan Basin. The Raritan Basin. The lead agency was the New Jersey Water Supply Authority, which is responsible for drinking water supply and management of reservoirs, including Rand Valley and Spruce Run in central New Jersey. The Upper Raritan Watershed Association was one of several agencies and organizations involved in the project. The primary spatial data product developed for this project was the mapping of riparian areas so that analyses could be performed for change detection regarding the structure of the riparian areas and land use, land cover within. The definition of riparian areas used to develop the data was based on the current scientific literature, but constrained by the available source data from approximately 20 years ago. Source data used to develop the Raritan areas, the riparian areas, were surface water from DEP, wetlands from DEP, wetland transition areas generated using DEP wetlands data, flood areas from FEMA and USGS, wildlife migration routes generated using DEP surface water data, and Surgo alluvial soils, or those soils deposited by surface water, and Surgo hydric soils, those soils that are permanently or seasonally saturated by water resulting in anaerobic conditions in the topsoil layer. The constituent source data were then used to create a network of connected features that form contiguous riparian areas. This shows the overall riparian network for a small area of the basin overlain with surface water. This map shows the alluvial soil features from the Surgo database within the riparian areas in green. This shows the hydric soil features from the Surgo database within the riparian areas in blue, in the light blue. And here they are combined, which shows that they are major constituents of the riparian areas. This slide shows DEP land use land cover data within the riparian areas. The land use land cover data was developed from DEP's 1995 update that also included the previous iteration of land use land cover data from 1986. That made it possible to do change detection between those years. I'm going to focus on the area in the red box on the right of the map in the next slides. This shows land use land cover in the riparian area from 1986. The areas with the red circles will change as I switch to land use land cover from 1995. These areas change from forest and wetlands to urban and agriculture. Quantifying and documenting these impacts to the riparian areas was an important component of the Raritan Basin project. This information was used to bring awareness of these impacts and to develop policies and create mitigation projects within communities at the local level throughout the Raritan Basin. And now I'm going to show the download instructions for Surgo. So there are various ways to download the Surgo database. In this slide, the engine home page at njgin.nj.gov. There is a search box for geospatial content circled in red on the right. You can type your search terms in this box, and such as being shown here where I typed in Surgo. Then click enter. This takes me to the engine open data site with the search results listed below. Alternatively, I can go directly to the engine open data site at njogis.opendata.arcgis.com and type in the search term in the search box at the top. When I click on the search result link, it takes me to the open data item. The summary for this item is in the left pane. Click on this View Full Details button outlined in red to access the instructions for downloading Surgo from the NRCS Geospatial Gateway. These instructions provide the information needed to download the Surgo database by a variety of geographies, by county, state, or other geography. The database includes the spatial data, the relational database tables, and the relationship classes already set up, and that's critical. Those relationship classes that Edwin showed you in his chart are already set up. You do not have to do that if you download the data here. Click on the link highlighted in yellow in the instructions to open the NRCS Geospatial Gateway homepage. This is the Geospatial Data Gateway. It can be accessed directly at gdg.sc.egov.usda.gov. The download links on the right side of the page under the heading for I want to have the links for download. I also want to mention that the NRCS updates Surgo annually, I think in September. Okay, so I hope these presentations gave all of you an understanding of the wealth of information in the Surgo database and the web tools and other resources available from NRCS. They provide a platform for a diversity of uses that have been historically underused. On behalf of Trish Long and Edwin Muñiz, thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you, Doug. And
You're welcome.
Not sure why I'm getting that feedback. But I guess
Hold on one sec.
I think so the meeting is adjourned, and I'm not sure. It's probably time to stop. Okay, it's gone there. Thank you everyone for attending. Again, the meeting is being recorded and you can get it off of the Engine website after it's posted there. And yeah, like Doug said, I think I actually learned about a lot of uses for our data that I wasn't aware of. So hopefully some of you learned as well, and maybe there's some soils data set or some analysis that you're interested in doing. And if you have any questions, you can contact me or Edwin, and we'll see what we can do to help you out. All right, that's it. Our next meeting is September 16th, but we'll send out an email about that. Executive committee meeting is this afternoon. Thanks, everyone. Bye, Doug.